And he said, well, it's not good. The prognosis is he will most likely never tie his shoes, never be able to feed himself or dress himself, and you will probably end up needing to put him in an institution when he gets a little older.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, "What?
I've heard
What?"
this story before, of course, but every time you tell it, it just brings me back to how awful that must have been. And what a jackass in front of all those
Oh,
interns.
unbelievable. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Welcome back to Grandma's
Grandma's not
Not Right.
right. They'll never be in
Yay.
sync.
It'll never be in sync when
They'll never be in
we live.
sync, but that's okay.
Eh, you know. Um, so, hey sis. Hey
Yeah.
audience. Hey viewers.
Hey,
How did your week go?
my week? You asking me?
I'm asking you.
I'm just kidding. Uh, it went good. It was my last week of spring break, and I was watching my granddaughter all week, and so I was trying to clean. I kept saying, I'm such a sucker. I'm like, look, man, sometimes I'm babysitter and sometimes I'm grandma, and I've got a lot of things to do. So you're gonna have to sit here and she's been on restriction from screen time because she got in trouble. So uh I don't put her in front of the TV that much anyway. But when you save it for special occasions to be like, okay,
Mhm.
I really got to get something to done, just let her chill in front of the TV. So the next best thing was I let her read Harry Potter on my phone. So, and I kept checking, are you only reading? You're not doing anything else? And she did, but she was still glued to the phone. And I realized that because then it was the pictures. She wanted to look through my pictures and she was glued to the pictures. It's like, it doesn't matter, man. It's being glued to a device. If you're scrolling through pages or scrolling through pictures, it's still scrolling on a device. It's still screen time. I haven't talked about it with her mom yet, so I probably should let her know. Hey, we did a lot of screen time, quote unquote. Anyway, so after I left your house, I don't know if I told you this, is I sent pictures to, I think, just a mom, but stopped. I just on a whim, I decided to stop at Cabazon at the dinosaurs.
Ah, right.
And I wasn't going to do the museum. It's like, I don't know what that's like. I didn't want to spend a lot of money and I didn't know how limited our time was. And we both were kind of disheveled. She, not that it matters. She's eclectic and I'm eclectic and we dress the way we dress, but it was just funny. I'm sure people are like, here's this kid out there with her black Halloween, Wednesday dress and her, I don't know, she had little mismatched socks on, which again, I don't care. It doesn't bother me. But, and then she's doing all her little acting in the wind and holding onto the dinosaur's legs and film me doing this. She's got the little entertainment bug. It was hilarious. So it was fun, we went in the gift shop and all that. She didn't want any dinosaurs or any memorabilia. She wanted all just other random stuff. And so just typical kind of experience. But we she had to go to the bathroom. Of course, they don't have any bathrooms. And then we started to go to the gas station and there's 2 porta potties out there. And I look in it and I go, oh no. I said, if we have to, we're gonna drive and go somewhere else. Dinosaurs over and we'll go to a restaurant and hopefully you'll make it. So we go in this gas station. I don't see any restroom signs. I'm looking up above, it's like it's almost styled like an Arco, whatever. And I didn't mean to come off as rude. I said to the guy, do you have any bathrooms in here? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, oh shit. So I look, he didn't say where they were though. I'm like, okay, I'm looking around and I found them. So I open the door. It's the women's bathroom. It has stalls in it. I open the door and this white man that's probably between my age and your age. I look at him like he just came out of a stall. I'm in here with my granddaughter. There's only 2 stalls in there. And I look at him. I look like, hey, dude. And he goes, oh, is this the women's? Oh, I'm sorry. With no big deal and walks out. And I was like, all I could think about was I didn't get all Karen on him. I didn't get my phone out and follow him and record him. I didn't go off and go, what the fuck are you doing in here? This is the women's bathroom. I'm with my granddaughter. How dare you? Blah, blah, blah. So the whole point of that story is just that here all these certain types of people don't want trans people in the bathroom because they're so afraid their kids are going to get murdered or raped or whatever. Graped. I
Mm,
guess we should say graped. I don't know if we're allowed to say that. So you may have to bleep that out.
great. Yeah.
Graped. Um, yeah, so I just thought it was funny. He looked like that typical guy. I don't want to judge, but he looked like the typical guy who would not be okay with that. And so I had all these things, when you think about it afterwards, you're like, man, I wish I would have said to the guy, hey, I'm not bothered that you're in here, but I got to ask, how do you feel about the opposite sex being in a bathroom? Because, if you're one of those that doesn't want an opposite sex person in the bathroom, you need to really watch where you're going, sir. Because if I thought you were, you know, trans, I might have tried to beat you up. You know what I mean? It was just like all these thoughts went into my head, and I just kind of laughed to myself. But guess what? Amelia was bothered with the most because I just go, "Oh, he thought it was he went to the wrong bathroom." Well, she didn't say anything, nothing big deal. But then when we were leaving, she goes, "That guy didn't even wash his hands." And I said, "I know some men are gross and they don't wash their hands." I said, "Now you
Yeah,
see
yeah,
why I want
yeah.
you to put the toilet seat cover down and everything." I said, "People, who knows what he did?" And then he touched the doorknob. See why we don't touch the doorknob? Ew, it's like anyway, sorry, that was a long tangent, but I just that's
Great learning
that,
moment there.
yeah. I have
Uh,
another one we could talk about later about a disabled moment. I think I mentioned it to you before already this week, but anyway, so what about you, sis? Anything to report?
well, yes, we attended my art show together.
Oh, well, duh. Yeah,
So
I forgot that
when
was
Wendy, my sister, helped
yes.
me do my first art show, which
It
was in
was so
Cathedral City.
fun.
And it was at a like a performing arts center in Cathedral City. There was a
Mhm.
band playing and
Oh, they were
it
so good.
was hot.
Oh,
I mean, yes, the desert is hot, but in March, it should not be
yeah.
that hot.
Was it like
It was
93 or 97
oh,
or
it
it was
was
something
almost
crazy?
100. And
Yeah.
you know, we were in a under an easy up, but I mean, I had a fan
Yeah.
and it was tolerable, but it was very humid on top of being hot.
Because it was cloud
So we
cover.
were we were just like anyway, but it was nice. But I wanted to talk about the incident that I had with the couple or the 2 people that came by
Oh,
with the wheelchair.
oh yeah. Oh, no.
It's kinda similar to the story you just told. Well, not similar, but I mean, it's
Well,
along the
similar
same
but
line.
different. Oh my God.
So we had the greatest time. We had so many sweet people walk by
Oh
and talk
yeah.
with us, and
Great
they were
people.
just the most friendly crowd, and it was on the same day as No King's Day, so we had a
Yeah.
lot of different people from that event walking by and talking
Yeah,
to us,
man.
and there are
Dressed in their cool little outfits with their
oh,
signs. Oh my gosh, it was
awesome,
awesome.
yeah, awesome
Yeah.
people, f just really
From all walks of life, man.
energetic from all walks of life. And,
Yes.
Cathedral City and Palm Springs, there are a lot of LGBTQ people in there, but,
Yes.
Cathedral City in particular, and especially on a day like that, so we had a lot of them coming through,
Oh yeah.
and,
Great
it was great.
conversation.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they were wonderful, but near the end of the day, this older these 2 older people came by, and this older woman, I assume, was a woman, and that's the problem. Uh, she was pushing a wheelchair with another person, an older person, and this older person was dressed in men's clothing, men's shoes, had a very short haircut, and they were old. They were, I want to say, at least
80s or 90s.
80s at least. Yeah, the person in the wheelchair may have been more in the 90s. But just for all intents and purposes, no reason for me to not assume this was an older gentleman.
Right.
So the person wanted to comment on my banner because my banner says Cheryl Ann Hunter and said, "We have the same last name." And I said, "Oh, that's cool." I said, "Well, thanks for letting me know that." I said, "I'm honored to share the name," or something. And I said, what did I say? I said something like, um, "It was nice to meet you, Mr. Hunter," or "Nice to meet you, sir," or whatever it was that I
Yeah, I think
said.
you said Mr. Hunter or
Mr.
another Hunter.
Hunter
No,
or "It's
Mr.
nice to meet you, sir," or something,
Yeah,
or "Mr.
something
Hunter."
male. It was something of a male
It was a
reference.
definite male reference, and the person pushing his wheelchair said, "The name is Ruth," and pointed, and I said, "Oh, well, it's so nice to meet you, Ruth. It's nice to meet another hunter," so I
You
tried
were
to
smooth. Yeah, yeah, but
quickly
yeah.
smooth it over, but I was like, "Ugh," the
Oh my
ultimate
gosh.
mistake that we make, right? And, in the very wrong place to make it, but they were gracious, it wasn't a big
Yeah, they
deal.
were
It
so
just
nice.
made me realize how pronouns make a difference.
Yeah.
And you have to figure I mean, I need to be more careful. Maybe say, I should have said, "Oh, well, I'm glad to have met you. What was your name again?" And then it would have
Uh-huh.
clued me in. What was your first name? Because the person never said their first name, right? Until
No.
after I made the mistake and whoever was pushing the wheelchair corrected me. So anyway, I wanted to
Yeah.
share that because those are learning moments for us. And, you know, it's
Well, and
it's,
that's
uh
no, I was just gonna say that's just it. You're in between boomer and Gen X, and I'm Gen X, and we are considered woke by most of our family and friends. They would say, yeah, they're real woke. But even then, we make those mistakes.
yeah.
And to those people, they don't know you from Adam. They have no idea what your background is. Of course, most people don't think we're sisters. Most people think we are a couple. So I think it's safe to assume that if they think that, they're just like, oh, someone made a mistake. But if they saw that we had a MAGA hat on or something, then they might go like, those
It might go off.
assholes. My name's are Ruth, which she would have every right to do that. But I'm just saying it's funny because we're so like, you know, on I don't want to say on their side. It sounds dumb. I just mean they don't know us, and they were
Right.
still so gracious, and forgiving. They could have been assholes about it, and they weren't.
Yeah.
I'm
They
sure
weren't.
they get that. I dress more tomboyish, and I wear short hair, and I if someone mistook me and said "sir," I wouldn't get mad. I'd be like, "That sounds about right." I'm not gonna chastise somebody, but yeah, it's just I wouldn't worry too much about it. I'm sure they forgave you.
No, it was just funny, it was ironic
Yeah.
in a way, but
As soon as you did it though, I was just
anyway,
like, "No."
I know, I'm sure I was thinking, "Oh, man. Oh, well." Anyway, um,
Yeah.
so, yeah, my week went well, and then Mike took me out for my birthday, he took me out
Uh-huh.
uh, to a concert. We went to see, Justin Hayward of the Moody Blues, and Mike knows the flute player in the band, and, she was amazing. Beautiful vocals, beautiful harmonies, her and the keyboard
Wow.
player. These 2 women were just amazing, so it was a fun night, it was nice to get away and have a date, and Wendy
Yeah.
babysat so I could go,
I
which I
babysat.
greatly appreciate
It was
'cause
the battle of the neediness because I had Jason and Amelia, and it was like, who's the
Yeah,
most
Amelia and
needy?
Jason, yeah.
She was definitely the most needy. He just wanted reassurance of what was going on. He was very
Yeah.
confused and, I mean, you don't get to go away when you're never gone when he's there. But let me and I know we're going to get into the whole Jason the whole Jason thing. Like
Jason
he's a
thing.
thing. The whole Jason situation. No. But I got to say now that what I'm thinking about it right now, you when you had him just let's say on the weekends when things were flipped and he was at school all week and then he could come home and be all, be himself and all crazy. You wouldn't go away because you only got to see him then. So you were always there. But now
Mhm,
you have him during the week and it's like, yeah, you have the weekends, but sometimes like this, something might come up during the week and
mhm,
it could be for fun. It could also be a family member gets ill or a friend gets ill, somebody dies. You have to take
right,
a pet to the vet or anything that happens that you need someone to watch him and he's not used to you being out of his sight. When he's at his dad's, you're not there. He knows that. So he doesn't know what the fuck you're doing. But you're not where you're supposed to be. And that's like, "Ugh, what's going on?" So anyway,
yeah.
I'm sure you're going to give your perspective of all that, but just I knew that's what it was, so I wasn't gonna
Mhm.
chastise him for being extra annoying. I was just like I kept telling him, "Jason, whatever you need, you tell me, whatever, except the Diet Cokes, you still only get 2 of those, buddy, sorry." I just kept saying, "Your
Right.
mom only left me 2. You only get 2." She said, "You could have 1 before dinner and 1 after dinner, and that's all." And I'd open the fridge, and I'll see there's none in there, and he's like, "Duh, big Diet Coke?" And I'm like, "There's no big Diet Coke either, just the 2 small ones that your mom gave me." I was like, "Please don't get upset. Please don't get upset."
That's all that he normally gets, so
Yeah. So
I
he
don't know.
knows.
He's just needing something to ease his
Is
anxiety, I guess.
of course, of course. He was sweet. He was good. He was
Yeah.
good. He was good.
It's not like the old days.
Oh man. Between him and my offspring that I had, my God, we had to watch
Wild
both of them. Yeah.
Ugh.
One would light a fire and one would probably stick his hand in the fire.
So, yeah, it is, April, Autism Awareness Month, Autism Month,
Yes.
and, that is, it's so funny how I mean, before we get into this, the different factions that pop up that compete against each other as if they wanna take ownership of the thing, whether it's, LGBTQ issues, you've got
Yes.
infighting in that group.
Oh, I
You
see what
know,
you're saying.
you've got infighting in, religious groups. You've got infighting in political groups where one part doesn't agree with another part's assessment of something, and so then they split off, and now you've got these 2 different factions. It's just
Oh,
ridiculous,
yeah.
and it happens too in the autism community
Okay.
because you've got those who say autism awareness, we don't need to celebrate or have a month for autism awareness. People should be aware by now, that there's autism acceptance. No, you don't shouldn't have a month where you say autism acceptance. You should always just accept that there are differently wired people in the world. So there's when you go on different websites, you have to find the one that fits your philosophy because so many of them are full of people who attack you for saying certain things.
Oh,
Because then
yeah.
there's also the ones that are very militant about using person with autism, and then you've got another group that are like, "No, autistic is fine." That's ridiculous. So it's just
Well, I
so
do know
funny.
you're not supposed to say Asperger's.
Oh, that's long. Yeah, they've definitely moved beyond that one. And and then there are those that if you say my child is has severe autism, "Ah, you mean level 3?" It's like, God, they change it so much. And I've been
Right.
doing this for 32 years now. So it's like, um,
And it's your kid. That's the thing, it's your own kid. If you
right.
wanna call your own kid Asperger's or you wanna call your own kid whatever, it's like,
Yeah.
it's your right,
It's
even if the world thinks it's wrong.
well, it's just I just find it funny because
Yeah.
if we all would just unite, let go of all the trivia and just
Yeah.
unite in common issues, it would be so much better.
Well, that's like
But
black people, you say black, you say African American, and for a while it was all African American, and then they're like, some of us are from Africa.
right.
And if you don't know their heritage, then, how do you classify somebody? Or people calling everybody Asian that looks Asian and there's Pacific Islander or is that Asian? But you know what I mean? There's different, I don't know. See, I get all nervous. And when I think I'm like, I can't remember. Um, so
Well,
yeah, there's
even
all the, even Native
yeah,
Americans. Some of them are like, no, we just call ourselves Indians. I'm like, oh my God,
or
dude, I can't get it right.
or First Americans or First Nation people or yeah, and so
Yeah.
they all have their different ways, all these groups, and we just try to navigate and do the best
Right.
we can, and if we're corrected, that's fine, but
Yeah.
don't
I
get
won't
mad at
balk at
us.
it. Yeah.
The
Don't
same
get,
old thing. Don't
just
get
like
mad at
Ruth,
me.
poor old Ruth.
Poor old Ruth. Don't get mad at me. Just
Yes.
correct me and move on. Anyway, yeah, so today we're gonna talk a little bit about, our family's adventures in autism. My son kinda took us down that road, and actually, I wanna say really though, as far as Wendy and I, her son started kind of taking us down that road with some of his challenges when he was little.
Yeah.
He's a whole different person now. He's so much like our cousin was, and our we had
Mhm.
a male cousin who, as a child, had so many challenges, emotional behavioral regulation challenges, and eventually just kind of grew out of it and moved
Yeah.
on to be a very successful, wonderful, you know, person. And so but I just want to say that there's so many sensory issues in our family, as we've talked about
Oh,
before.
yeah.
But Jason introduced a whole new level of,
Exactly.
of it
Yeah.
to our family.
Right.
Anything you want to add to that?
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, different different times, different upbringings, um, different teachers, programs, all of those things can make a difference, but I think it's hard for people to accept that some people are just individuals. Some
Hmm.
people, it you can have the same child rearing experience in the same family. Both of you
Right.
have either, autism, or both of you have ADHD or whatever, and you're going to be affected differently by it because you're an individual. Even identical twins have individual personalities. That's the one thing you cannot clone. That's it's You're going to have a different, even being in the same household.
Hmm.
So,
Yep.
you
I
know
agree.
my son did introduce us to, yeah, some interesting things that were going on, and then Jason came along, and yeah, it was just a totally different experience.
So, what I kind of wanted to, if you don't mind, just run through real quick, um,
Of course.
how I knew there was a problem, how he was diagnosed, and all of that.
Yes,
Just a real
yes.
quick story, because there are some things I want to say about healthcare and about working with doctors, especially when you have a
Uh-huh.
child with special needs or special medical conditions. Um, yeah, there's some things I want to mention here. Um,
Alrighty.
so we may not get through all this. We may end up with a part two. We'll see how it
And my
goes
glasses are cloudy. Okay.
today. So yeah, my son Jason, and I'll pop pictures up as I go here. But he was born in April 4th, 1994, and he's the fourth child. And my first three were girls, and my girls developed not only textbook but higher level than textbook. I mean, Wendy's did too. They were reading early, they were walking earlier, they were, they did everything early and
Mhm.
developed just just as they should and better. So, I had that experience going into my fourth pregnancy. Um, and Wendy and I were working at the time, we were working at the YMCA. And we've kind of mentioned this in the past in another podcast, but there was one of our students, her brother. He was probably, I don't know, I want to say 16, 17. I don't know how old he was, but
That sounds
maybe not
about
even that
right.
old. But he was a big kid, really big
He
kid. He was
looked
adult
older.
size. Huh?
Yeah, no, he looked older just because he was
Yeah.
a big kid. Yeah.
But he was nonverbal. He didn't speak, and he I didn't know what autism was yet. So this was in the 1980s. I didn't know what it was.
It was before the
And I knew,
movie came out, I think.
well, the movie may have come out, but I mean, I had no understanding of what it was other than if I had seen the movie. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right, right. I
Um,
see what you're saying. Yeah.
and so he was definitely, we knew something was going on there. But
Yes.
our observation of him was that he it was scary. It was scary. I didn't see how a child like that could show love or affection. It was
Mhm.
all about just yelling, hitting, destruction, and that was my impression. Um so fast forward to when I was pregnant, we talked about the worst thing that I would experience as if my child had autism, which is so ironic, right? And then I know when we worked, but this was after I had Jace, but when we worked, when we first moved to the Ukaipa program, started that program, um, I remember the daycare in the building that our program was in.
Yes.
I can't think of the child's name, but he was in daycare and he would come and bounce on our trampoline, on our tumble track. And
I think that
he
was one
wasn't
of our gymnast brothers.
no, it was someone in
Oh.
Jesse's daycare.
Oh, okay.
Remember his mom had the convertible and the red hair?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Remember? Anyway, he would come in to our area and start jumping on the trampoline because they didn't notice he had come into our room, and he
Oh,
was
yeah.
nonverbal. But I
Yeah.
remember we instinctively somehow knew, we're just gonna let him bounce. I held his hands, we let him bounce for a little bit, and I said, "Okay, time to go back. Let's go," and made a game of it. And of course, he would keep doing that now every day that he could,
Right.
but basically we were able to get him back in there without
Mhm.
causing much of a ruckus,
Right,
and
right.
so that was another experience we had. And but when I had Jace, he developed pretty normally in the first few months, but anything that seemed different, I was attributing it to, well, it's a boy,
Mhm.
they develop differently, blah blah blah. So I was trying not to worry about things,
Right.
and I knew the milestones he should be hitting because of my education, but also because of the 3 daughters.
Yeah, you had 3 other kids. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So he had
Yeah.
started rolling over and doing things that he should. He was just sitting up and doing pretty good about sitting up. And I had just introduced cereal.
Mhm.
So he had been breastfed up to then. And I had just introduced rice cereal. So I remember he was almost 5 months, 4.5, somewhere in there, months. And he'd be eating his cereal, and then all of a sudden he would do this thing where he'd go like this. And I thought he was losing control of his head. I thought, "What
Uh-huh.
is going on?" You know? And I at first I thought that was the problem, and I was really concerned because he had just started sitting up. So, after a whole day of him doing this thing, I called the doctor and I made an
Uh-huh.
appointment, and I got an appointment fortunately within a few days, and it seemed like he was doing it more and more often, so I was really
Mm.
concerned and I wasn't sitting him up. I was keeping him, holding him instead. But I took him in, and it was Kaiser, and I am still with Kaiser, and I love Kaiser, by the way.
Yeah.
So, any Kaiser people out there,
Yeah.
just
I
listen to this
I
whole story.
I had good experiences with Kaiser too, so
So I took him to Kaiser, and at that time, I was going to the one in Fontana, and I took him to the medical center. The doctor, and I'm going to give doctors' names because it's important to me, because if any of them hear this or anybody that knows them hears this, I do want you to contact me.
yeah,
'Cause I would like for all these doctors to see how my son's doing today.
right.
Anyway, so we go into this doctor, his name is Dr. Olson. I don't know what his first name was, but Dr. Olson. And I tell him what's going on, and he says, let's check him for an ear infection and check his throat. It could be
Yeah.
like an ear infection or
Oh,
something like
yeah.
that. And
It's
he's, just it hurts, so he's tensing up. I said,
mhm.
okay, so I listened to him, and then at the end he gave me a prescription for antibiotics, said that his ears looked a little red.
Okay.
So he gave me prescription. So I'm waiting at the pharmacy, and where I was in the pharmacy, you could see the door from the pediatrics room. And I'm sitting there waiting for my prescription, and all of a sudden Jace starts having one of the attacks. At that same time, Dr. Olson walks out of the door just a few feet from me. And I said, Dr. Olson, he's doing it. Come and watch. You can see what I'm talking about. He goes, now, Mom, it's all right. Just get that prescription, get him home, and get him started. He'll be
Oh
fine.
my
And he just
god.
kept walking. He kept walking.
He's on
So
his lunch break. He ain't got time for that.
I was like, wait, but this is exactly what I was talking about. You need to look at it. This is not simple, So
Yeah,
I was devastated that the doctor didn't find it important enough to come and talk to me and see what
right.
he's doing. And I just found it, like, just so dismissive, and
Yeah,
I was just stunned, right? So I go home very defeated thinking, "Okay, well, maybe he's right, and I just look like an idiot, whatever." But then he's having them more often and for longer periods of time, and
oh
by
my
the
god.
second day of this, now he's, like, sitting there happily sucking his thumb, and then all of a sudden he's having one, and he's biting down with the few teeth that he has right on his thumb,
Oh,
and he's put a big cut on his thumb where
oh
he's
my
having
gosh.
this clenching thing while his thumb is in his mouth, so it was just and then I'm trying to feed him, and he's doing it while he's
What?
attached
Yeah.
and, cut me and, so it was like and he would cry. He was in pain.
Ugh,
It seemed like he was in
that's
pain.
awful.
So then the next day, I called again and I said, "I am demanding to see a doctor right now, today, and it will not be Dr. Olson. Do not send me to Dr. Olson again. I want to see somebody else. This is serious. I think he's having seizures." And the doctor was dismissive. I don't want to see him
Good for
again.
you. Uh-huh.
So they sent me up with a different doctor. And this was Dr. Lehman, Lehman, Dr. Lehman. And so I go there and I'm sitting waiting in the waiting room and or in the when I got called in, I'm sitting in the doctor's office and in walks this little lady, older lady, short hair. She's probably barely 4 foot tall.
Mhm.
She walks with a rock like this. She reminded me of the little lady on the original Poltergeist that was the psychic. That's what she
Yeah.
reminded. She
Oh
even
man,
had
yeah.
an accent that was, like,
Okay.
similar to that, right?
That's
She
funny.
talked like her,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and she was just wonderful and sweet, but she's sitting there talking to me and having me describe everything, and, she's looking through his chart, and then all of a sudden he starts having the seizure, and she goes, "Oh, okay. I know just what this is." She said, "Mom, you don't worry about a thing. We're going to take care of this." She said, "Are you breastfeeding?" I said, "Yes." She picks up the phone. She says, "Yes, I need a car sent around for Mrs. Hunter, Mrs. Searsma
Yeesh.
and her son because
Yeah.
she's breastfeeding and we're going to admit him and we're going to have mom make sure there's a bed for mom and we're going
Wow.
to so it was like boom boom boom. She just
Mhm.
like royal treatment
And
and
this is
we
after him
got
having this shit for 2 days.
for 2 days. So we get settled. They run CAT scan, they run EEG, they run all kinds of stuff. They find no damage, so there's nothing
Okay.
indicating that there was any kind of brain trauma.
Right.
So, but they see that there is seizure activity. Um, so we're in the hospital, and the doctor that we're assigned is the next doctor that enters the scenario,
Okay.
Dr. Patel, and Dr. Patel was I don't know, I don't know what his official title was or what practice he was, but he was basically Jason's doctor at the hospital.
Okay.
Probably some kind of neurologist or pediatric neurologist or something.
Okay. Yeah.
And so he comes in, he has an entourage of interns with him.
Of course.
And of course, me and Jason's dad are sitting there waiting to get the report on what's going on, what did the test show.
Yeah.
So this guy walks in. And I hadn't even seen him before. He hadn't even come in the room yet. It's the first time I really saw him. He hadn't come and talked to us personally yet at all. He
Okay.
comes in with 5 or 6 interns, picks up the chart. He's telling them everything, and he
Oh.
hasn't even talked to us yet. And then he turns and he said, he hands me, I'll show you what he handed me. He hands me a little it's a little piece of paper like this that's out of a medical journal. You can see it's a copy of a copy.
Yeah.
And this is a different copy, but the one he gave me had it circled where it said infantile spasm. So it was like a circled paragraph, you know.
Okay.
Read
Out of a
this.
book.
This is what I'm pretty sure that this is the condition. Read this and it'll give you the information. And I'm like, "Well, what did the I'm trying to ask him questions, and he just seemed to be bothered. It was like I was interrupting him,
Oh,
and I was trying to ask questions like, "Well, what did the MRIs show? What did the CAT scan? What did everything show?"
yeah.
And he was i- basically like, "Why is that your business?" I mean, that's the kind of impression I got,
Wow.
And he said, "Well, it doesn't show anything. It doesn't show any reason for it. It's completely what did he call it? Uh cryptid cryptogenic, I think is what he called it. Something anyway that meant we can't find a reason for it. Or
Okay.
idiopathic. Maybe that's what the word is. I don't know. Anyway, so Jason's dad asked, "Well, what's the prognosis?" And he said, "Well, it's not good. The prognosis is he will most likely never tie his shoes, never be able to feed himself or dress himself, and you will probably end up needing to put him in an institution when he gets a little older."
Oh my god.
And I'm like, "What?
I've heard
What?"
this story before, of course, and but every time you tell it, it just brings me back to how awful that must have been, and what a jackass in front of all those
Oh,
interns.
unbelievable. So then he just turns around with his interns and leaves the room. There's no bedside manner with this dude at
Wow.
all, obviously.
Dr.
So then I'm just
Patel.
sobbing. I'm sobbing and I'm just, falling apart. And then this other person comes in and her name is Dr. Let's see, her name is Dr. Lou, I think. Dr. Lee. Dr. Lim. It was Dr. Lim, Lim. And she was a sweet young neurologist. And she comes in and she says, "Now, why are you crying?" And she takes my hand. "Why are you crying?" I said, "Because he said blah, blah, blah. And he said
Yeah.
he's going to be institutionalized and that he's never going to improve and this and that." She goes, "Now, you just don't listen to him. He does not know everything." She said, "I'm going to be Jason's neurologist and I am going to work with you and work with Jason and we're going to make some progress here. So you don't know what the future holds, so just relax and we're going to get through
Really?
this, mom." And then she ended up Jason's neurologist for many, many years. And guess who her nurse was? Aunt Louise.
Oh my gosh, how funny is that?
Every
Wow.
time I take Jason, I would get to see Aunt Louise. So
Oh,
that
that's
was really
cool, man.
special. Yeah. Um, so that's how it all started. And then the autism diagnosis didn't even come yet. That was just diagnosed infantile spasms, which now is associated with something called West syndrome. And
Okay.
it is an electrical malfunction basically in the brain, but and it tends to affect social and communication areas and a lot of motor skills and stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so then fast forward, because the pediatrician that I was seeing, the new a new pediatrician and, the neurologist, they hooked me up with Inland Regional Center because um, his motor skills and he was hyperflexive.
Oh,
So he
yeah.
wasn't crawling yet, and by the time he was, like, 1.5 years old, he still wasn't crawling. He wasn't holding him pulling himself up, he was barely
Right.
rolling over. He wasn't even getting up and rocking on his hands and knees, any of the things he should be doing.
I remember that.
So,
Mhm.
and they had put him on heavy duty seizure medication. So they thought at first maybe it's just that it's really delayed his development and stuff.
Right.
But it ended up that they were able to get me into occupational therapy for him to try and motivate his limbs and strengthen them,
Right. Yeah.
so that he could put pressure on everything.
Mhm.
And so we were working with that. And then I got introduced to the Inland Regional Center. Um, because of the fact that he was not developing properly.
Yeah.
Um, and that was fortunate because then I ended up with in-home person who did sensory stimulation therapy
Yep. I
and
remember that.
occupational therapy and stuff like that. So then I started feeling like he wasn't doing the same things as far as communication like the girls did. He wasn't focused on me. He didn't notice my face. He didn't respond to sounds. Um, and it I knew something was wrong. And
Right.
in the back of my head, that autism word kept coming up.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, I don't know if this is
Could
what
have
it
been a
would be, but,
premonition,
oh,
yeah. Could
man,
have been a premonition the whole
it
time.
was like, wow, okay, maybe that's what it is. So the person who was doing his in-home therapy, I said to her one day, I said, I don't know if you're able to answer this. I said, but do you think I should have him tested for autism? And she goes, oh my God, I'm so glad you asked me that. She says, I'm not allowed to say anything. If I
Yeah.
suspect something, I'm not allowed to tell you. But if you ask me, I'm able to answer.
Isn't that
Yes, I agree
sad?
with you.
Isn't that
It is
sad?
sad. I think it's horrible. She said,
That
I'm
happened to
so
me and
glad
my
you asked
son.
me.
That's another story, but that happened to me. That's the
Yeah.
way I found out he had ADHD.
Yeah.
So,
So I found out who to contact, and I
right.
contacted the Autism Society of San Diego. There was a special doctor there that's well known. Um, and I just had to send paperwork and like do this survey and answer questions. And then they called me and did like a phone thing about more history on
Mhm.
his other diagnoses and stuff. And so it came back severe autism. That enabled me to go to Inland Regional Center because I
Oh,
have that
okay.
diagnosis now so that
Right.
he would be permanently um, hooked with them. And then I started getting all kinds of therapy and all kinds of help. I had people calling
Yeah.
me. I'm like, oh, who are you? What do you do? He got speech therapy, all these different therapies. So that's how this whole thing started. And then he, of course, was in county classrooms and special education as soon as he started kindergarten.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the beginning of the story.
That's the beginning. Like I said, this could be a two-parter easily. We got so much
And so
information
much.
about Jason.
Um, yeah. And I can't even remember. I know that he was going to, for a while, he was going to a daycare. Um,
Was that was that on like Fifth Street?
it was actually on 6th over at the
Oh.
end, not 6th Street, 7th Street, over at the end where it starts to goes and it's going to join,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
down and
Okay, yeah.
join,
Right, right, right.
whatever that other street is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They were in some she was in some new houses, a track that was over there. So
Right.
anyway, she was wonderful, and he was too, so it was like he was just like a delayed toddler, basically, and so he was
Yeah.
fine, and she could deal with them, and she helped toilet train him, I mean, because he was with her a few hours every day while I worked to where she was able to help me, so we together,
Wow.
we were able to toilet
That's
train him
cool.
pretty well, but he did not like having that diaper before him, and he would poop in his diaper, and then he would not want it in his diaper, so then he would wipe it on anything he could find, walls, carpeting, bed, clothes,
Oh,
towels, whatever he could find to wipe his hands on, usually the carpet and the walls, every single day. I would be cleaning poop off something. So I ended up putting him in, um, Miranda, my daughter, his next oldest sister, she had leotards, and I would put him in her leotards and or
like you put
swimsuits,
shorts, yeah, and
one
you put
piece
like
swimsuit,
shorts
and
over
then
the top of it.
put shorts over the top and a shirt
Yeah.
so that he couldn't just,
It would
easily
be
reach
very
in.
difficult. Yeah.
It was just a nightmare. I was constantly shampooing carpets and
Yeah.
scrubbing and crying and,
Yeah, I remember
you
so
know
many times that, I'd get that call, I'm gonna be late to work or I can't come in because Jason pooped all over the carpet. It was a brand new house, a house built specifically for you guys. It was your
Mhm.
house,
Yeah, it wasn't
built for
custom, but I mean,
you,
yeah, house.
and with the super light colored carpet, brand
Beige
new.
carpet. Yeah.
And yeah,
Oh, crazy. Yeah, and I remember just I don't think I remember feeling other than having you, and of course, mom tried her best, but she was still working. But
yeah.
having the older girls, my older
Oh
daughters,
gosh, your
was
daughters
amazing.
really,
They
yeah,
they they helped
they
raise
were,
him. They're my second
yeah.
moms, your second mom. Um, but his dad did not get it, and his dad did not see the day-to-day trauma that
Right.
we were
No,
all living through.
he didn't get it.
And, I remember being told, basically to quit your whining, you know, "You wanna trade places? Oh, that's right, you can't
Well, and
make
he
as
was
much
a
money as
well,
me,"
and
and
he was
it
a
was like
well, and he was a teacher, and I think
yeah.
he couldn't comprehend that you didn't have a and a lot of people are this way. It's not just him, and it's a lot of men. You didn't have an education like he did to be a teacher, but we worked with kids in gymnastics, and we already had kids that had ADHD. We already knew kids that had autism.
Mhm.
We were up close and personal with kids developing physically and mentally. We took early childhood studies, but no, we did not have a 4-year degree. But now we all know on this side of it, which I can attest because my teachers have made me feel good about it, and you've had people tell you that that doesn't mean squat, that you could education has not everything to do with it. And yeah, I just don't think he respected at the time that you knew so much more than he thought you did because you didn't have a college
Well,
education like he did.
that's true. That there was a lot of that. I'd read a bunch
And
of
that's
stuff,
he's a
and
product
I'd
of
wanna
his
share
environment.
it. I'd wanna share it, and I'd wanna get him on board with trying this or trying that, and it was like, I couldn't even get him to talk about it because I think he was in such denial and just was hoping that it was just gonna all change overnight, and
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, I remember being told, "Cry me a river, woman. When you work the hours I work, then maybe you can complain." And it was like, "You're not getting it." So I felt so
Yeah.
alone. And so I
Yeah.
know that some of you viewers out there, if you are watching for the first time and this is who we are, we don't always talk about autism, but it's such a central part of our lives. And this month
Yeah. It's a big
is
part of
just
all of our lives.
it's an
Yes.
important month, and so I'm just sharing my story on this channel, um, but just assuring you that you do feel alone. I mean, I understand how you feel alone, and it's I'm fortunate. I have a huge family. I have a huge family, and they're all very, very helpful, very hands on, and I know I'm so grateful for that because I don't know how I would have made it through all this. I really don't.
Yeah. I mean, your
It was
kids
not
were
easy.
yeah, because your kids were young. I mean, they were what are they, 9 years older than him? So I know that's a
Nine,
lot, but
10 years
still,
older, yeah.
still though,
Yeah, but
we're young to
they're
have
still
to
young trying to do
yeah.
their own childhood things, but
Yeah.
there were times when I put a lot of pressure on them to watch their brother and sister, but
And
it was
wa
out of
and to watch
necessity.
my 2. Mine that
Yeah,
had ADHD and then, my other one, and so they were
yeah,
watching 4 young kids that
yeah,
too had
can't
like I
believe
said,
we
my son would
expected of those.
my son would have started a fire and your son would have put his hand in it because he didn't feel any pain.
Pretty
That's what you had right there.
oh gosh. Yeah, and then around the same time as dealing with the poop was, and let me tell you, most people with autism or children with autism at least, they have digestive issues and
Oh,
their
yeah.
poop is constantly in a state of inflammation. So you're seeing this just green, gross green smelly poop. It's
Yeah.
like it's like forest green smelly poop, and
Yeah.
it's no matter what he ate, and I tried to feed him all the things that they suggested and nothing
Mhm.
changed it. But moving on from poop,
Moving
there
on.
was
I could
there
talk
was
all
the
day about poop.
elopement, where
Oh,
there
the
was the
elopement.
elopement.
Oh, boy.
Do you wanna tell a story about elopement? You go ahead.
Well, I've got my own story,
Okay.
and it wasn't the first time because I think the thing what's so funny is I already had heard the stories of his elopement from other people in the family, and so when it happened to me, it was just that thing, like, on the one hand, I'm not the only one, but nobody likes it to happen on their watch because you catastrophize the what ifs, what ifs, what ifs would have happened. So your house was on a cul-de-sac. So there was the main road, which is Avenue E, and then you were off of 9th Street, and then your cul-de-sac was Terry Way in Yucaipa. And you lived at the end of the cul-de-sac. And then there was a house, and then there was like a ditch opening, and then the rest of the houses. And I was watching all the kids. I don't remember who knows why I was watching them at night and you weren't there. It could have been Tupperware party. It could have been
Probably was.
anything. I don't know if you were still with his dad at the time. You could have been on a date. No, I'm kidding. But I
No,
just remember
it was like one of those
it was
Tupperware or
something.
something,
Yes.
and it
So I'm watching
in
watching
yeah.
all the kids, see all 6 kids, and he used to play a keyboard. He loved playing the demos of the keyboard, like, so he didn't really play songs on it, just mostly hitting the buttons and then doing his little pattern going, "I'm gonna run over here, then I'm gonna run over here, and then I'm gonna hit this other button and then run over here and then run over." So he had his little patterns that a lot of autistic kids do, and I'll never forget, and I've been trying to find that keyboard. I looked one day, went down a rabbit hole finding demos. People have them on there from like 1990, whatever. I looked through every
Trying to
video and
find
I'll
that
never forget it. It went da 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 da
do,
da
do, do,
da
do, do,
da
do,
da.
do, do.
So he had that thing going. I had ordered pizza and someone said, "Hey, the pizza's here." Okay, and you had a two-story house. It was like, a lot of yelling from upstairs, downstairs, whatever. There's 6 kids in there, but we always have music playing and then he's got the keyboard. Well, when you hear that keyboard, it's just that mundane thing. It's background noise and you're assuming he's playing it even though he's not playing it. So something happened. I'm all, okay, we got to get this pizza on. Someone had put the pizza in the kitchen. I get down to the bottom of the stairs and the front door's open and there's his little blanket right on the floor in front of the door. And I went, oh, fuck. And all I remember, this is what I remember. I could be totally off. All I remember is I said, "Hey, Jason's gone or run out or whatever. Search the entire house now." And so I knew the first thing I had to do was run all the way to the end of the cul-de-sac because I knew that if he got beyond that cul-de-sac to 9th Street and then Avenue E, I'm fucked anyway because how long it had been. And so I ran to the end of the cul-de-sac and it was super dark and quiet. I mean, street lights, but it was late enough at night that there wasn't a lot of people doing anything. And so I just kind of went into that mode of listening and I just started walking back towards the house in the middle of the street, listening for any sound. And I almost got to the house and I was getting more and more panicky, like, motherfucker, they better oh sorry, they may have better have found that kid in that house. I am oh my gosh, then all of a sudden I hear something and I listen and I hear a kid and it's in the direction of one of those giant maintenance gates that goes down into the ditch. And I'm all, oh my God. I could barely see myself. I don't remember if there's moonlight. I don't know if it was just the street lights around or people's houses or whatever. But it was dark enough that I had to, and I knew there's nothing I could do. I could go down the slope. I could barely see a little white thing that was the diaper. He was just there in a diaper, sitting at the bottom of a ditch, playing in the dirt at night in the dark, like no fucking care in the world. And as soon as I saw him, man, that relief. But of course, I bring him in. I'm sure I probably cried because I was freaked out. I'm looking at his whole entire body. And he doesn't like that. And I'm like looking at all his fingers, his toes. Is he okay? And yeah, so that was my experience, and it was awful. And you even put like the doorknob protector. He was
Mhm.
he was probably 7, 6 or 7 by that time, and he
He
still
was
figured out that.
no, he was only
Oh, that was 98 when you got that house.
so yeah, he would have been
So
he would have
maybe 4 or
been
5, 5 or
5, 4 or
6.
5, 5, maybe, I think probably 5 or 6 maybe. No, because he was out of diapers by the time he started kindergarten, I think, or
Well,
right around that.
I
Anyway,
mean,
but
we
but
always
he was
locked the door, but he
yeah.
just knew how to
He was
unlock it.
young, but he was, I think, 5 or 6,
Yeah, most little kids, okay,
but
most regular little kids, if you lock a deadbolt, that kid doesn't know how to figure that out even at 4 or 5 years old, or they can't reach it or whatever. He would have done anything, got a chair, like, he was that smart
yeah,
and resourceful, and also, I
right.
swear you guys had one of those doorknob protectors, maybe not, but he would have
I
figured
don't
that out too. He didn't give a
yeah, I
shit.
don't remember, but I we had some kinda latch. I don't remember what we had, but this the elopement thing to that extent came about so quick. It was like it had happened several times before we had time to figure out what to do about it. I mean, it was like
Right.
it was so he learned things so fast that we were trying to keep
Yeah.
up with how to how to
Because he had no
protect.
fear. He had no fear. He didn't fear going
Right.
outside.
And we ended up at night, we ended up putting one baby gate on one side of the door jamb, another baby gate on the other side of the door jamb, and then taking a belt and belting them together. But then he figured out he could pull the bottom up enough to crawl under. So he still was able to get out.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was
and
just
I remember at that time because, we read every article
Mhm.
when things were just regular online, you'd go to a website, you went to seminars, kind of things for that, parents, and
Yeah.
then you'd tell us about it, or we'd see it on a show, probably like an Oprah kind of thing or whatever. And it's funny because people talked about it was like a controversy whether to put a screen door, a security screen door, a screen door. And even our mother, one time she said she was upset about the baby gates. What if there's a fire? I said, Mom, if there's a fire, they're 2 floors up. Do you think he's gonna know to open a window and push up the screen any differently to get out than
Right.
if the door was
He's
closed or
yeah.
how to get out of the house? I don't know. But he probably maybe he could have, but it's like it's either that or he goes in the kitchen and starts playing with knives, or he what do you do? How do
Yeah.
you sleep in front of the doorway until he crawls over you every night? I mean, so I get her fear. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to poo-poo her fear. I get that,
And
but it was
and
kind of like,
and today I read articles all the time on the different Facebook or whatever pages for parents with children like Jace.
I
And
follow
that is
so many
still one of
people.
the things that people talk about. They share, like, this one mom, I saw that she shared how they have a certain section of their house that is completely barred like a jail, basically. It's decorative, cute looking, but it's
Yeah, it's
barred
not
like
a
a
jail
jail.
cell.
So, like, when everybody goes to bed, there's no way that anybody's getting downstairs without going through and figuring out how to unlatch that thing, and it's high
Exactly.
enough that the kid can't reach it, whatever. That
Yeah,
keeps all the kids protected, but, and everybody,
especially
"Oh,
that
that's
one.
just horrible. How can you do that? Jail it's like, what do you want?" And then if your kid does get out, well, who is watching them? How did they get out late at night? It's like,
You can't
people.
win. Well,
No,
I have to
I
say,
don't get it.
I got a couple of things on the elopement. First of all, um, people would get upset about the people who would have their kids on quote leashes. And
Uh-huh.
and, whether they're special needs or regular, "Oh, you're treating your kid like a dog." It's like, okay, if you're just because we were gymnastics instructors and we were very strong people and very willing and capable, what about the uh, parents who are not that way, who are not athletic, who are not ready that you're gonna? I mean, it was one thing to chase after a toddler, you don't have to run very far. But when a kid gets to be 4, 5, 6, or
Right.
even to 12 and they're
And
running
fast.
away, what do
Fast.
you think? They're supposed to just stay in their hidey hole in their home and never go
Right.
anywhere? It's like, if you have a kid that's gonna run, you have to protect yourself, and
Have
if
to
that
protect
means
them.
having a
Yeah.
quote, "leash," well, fuck you, you don't
I saw
know, you
so
know?
many people with harnesses. I almost got one for Jace. I don't know if I don't think I did.
We
It's
talked about it,
I
but
talked
there's
about it. I
always
don't
so
think
many
I
of us
did.
around.
Well, and I was just used to, like, I would hold the back of his shirt everywhere we went. But,
Yeah,
what was I gonna say? I was gonna say
sorry.
that, I mean, I know that Jace at that age, he was super fast. I
He
mean, he
was
doesn't know how to run now, but he could run then. He was
poor
so
Jace.
fast.
Yeah,
And, so it's like when they get older, if they're still that athletic, yeah, it's nothing you can do. And to this day, he'll back into the middle of a parking lot while he's waiting for me to unload the groceries. He'll just accidentally step backward into the parking lot and there's cars
yeah,
coming. So I'm always like, Jace, you got to stay next to me.
yeah,
So it's that there's no sense of danger. There's no sense
yeah,
of strategic thinking. What
right.
would you call that? Um,
Critical
I don't
thinking?
know. I
No,
can't
not
think of the
critical
term
thinking.
right now, but just
Uh,
pre-planning where
oh.
you're
Spatial awareness.
and
Yeah.
um an understanding and an awareness of the dangers that are around you. I mean,
Right.
it's just not that
Yeah.
think ahead about that.
Yeah.
So it
Well,
has to be trained, you know?
that's why, like I said, I know a parent who is a para like I am, and her child has autism, and she reminds me a lot of Jason when he was that age. A lot of echolalia, and a few, she gets upset and throws a little fit sometimes. And there's the elopement, but she had some she had to quit work because she needed to take care of her, because she didn't, first of all, she didn't like what I think the school was doing at the time. I think
Mm.
she's back in school now, maybe, but after school or whatever. So she wanted to get the, what is it called? ISS?
Oh,
IHS?
8 IHSS?
IHSS. And had to have somebody, and the whole thing was that she had to prove that in public she doesn't understand dangers. And she's like, she will walk on top of railings. She doesn't understand that, like, she'd get on the balance beam at the gym and just have no problem. Like, I had to go, wait, you need to slow down. You can't. She just like walk like it's a race. I'm like, oh my God. And Jason used to do the same thing.
Yeah.
He didn't give a fuck. He'd get on that beam and run.
Just
And we're like, oh my God, or the trampoline. He'd
yeah,
jump off on doing stuff. And we're like, how do we teach him that that's going to be dangerous? But it just reminds you of what you just said, that, you know, people don't understand, that they don't understand. And then there's, two camps. Oh, well, then they should just stay at home. It's like, what the fuck did you just
yeah,
say?
right, right.
What?
And they still
That's the
say those
same as
things,
saying they should be in institutions. That's the same
right,
people who would
right.
say that if there were institutions. Well, you should just have them in an institution then,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you can go
it's true.
yourself if you think that yourself.
That's right. Yes, God, there's so many subjects. Um, and he loved French fries, and so everywhere we went, we talked about this before too. The kids, whoever was in the back with him, their job was always to put his hot French fries in the vents of the air conditioning
Yep.
in the family van to cool them off so that he could have them because he wanted them right now.
Oh yeah, he did not want to wait. And we
Still
said
loves
they're
French
hot.
fries.
And then he
Mhm.
called him Shawawais, and we still to this day,
Shawarice. Shawarice.
Shawawais. Like,
And I
usually you
know what
can
that
kind of pick why, but oh shoot, sorry. I just kicked
and
my
that and
phone thing.
that's that, Gestalt language, and I know where that came from because I would say, "Want some
Oh.
fries?" So it was
Oh, how come I didn't know that all these
it was the
years? You've been
was that
holding
with
back on that, bitch.
intonation? Is that what that would be called? He was repeating how I said that, "Want some
Oh,
fries?" "Show
Shawawais.
'em rice?" Mhm.
Oh, how do I not know that until just
I don't
now?
know, but
You're an
that's
asshole.
what it was.
Wow. But yeah,
Yeah.
we'd get those fries, and I'm the one in the passenger seat. I'm doing all the food initially, and I'm sticking them in vents, and he's just in the back. Show
"Show 'em
eyes.
rice."
And we're all, put them in the vents. Put them in the
Quick.
vents
So
quickly.
all the kids knew what to do.
Yeah. My God.
Hilarious.
I mean, we laugh about it now. We did laugh about it then. And also, we'd be at McDonald's, and he'd get up and he'd just take random fries off of people's trays because he didn't know. And
Right?
then we're like, "Oh my god, so sorry." And we're laughing about it. We're not even mortified. We're just laughing because it's so ridiculous. And then, you have some people who are like understanding, and other people are like, control your kid.
Yeah.
That to me is what I'll always go to the shitty side of people, and I want to tell everybody fuck off all the time anyway, but like the guy in the grocery store who growled at him and
Oh, yeah.
that kind of stuff.
That was funny.
Yeah, tell that story because that's hilarious.
Well, the way I remember it was that we were walking down the aisle in the grocery store. Jason was sitting in the front of the cart, and
And he
he
barely
was
fit.
he has his vocalizations, and he was into doing his vocalizations all the time, screaming. I mean, they were loud, and he was happy. It wasn't like it was because of any problem,
Yeah.
but he'd go, "Ah, ah," and stuff, all these weird noises. Well, he did something really loud. This old man was right next to him, and then he turns and he gets real close to Jason's face, and does it back into his face. Is that how you remember it?
Yeah, I wasn't there. You told me
Oh,
about it, but that's the story I remember that he
that was
just like went, "Ugh," whatever in his
oh, yeah,
face. The
yeah, yeah.
same. Yeah,
Maybe
no,
that
no,
was
no.
me
That's
in
what you told
my
me.
I don't know. Okay.
No, I remember
Never
because I said, man, I'm glad I wasn't there, or he should be glad I was there. You're like, I'm glad you weren't there because I,
yeah.
you would have, you would have probably raised a ruckus.
Well, weren't you with me though when an older lady said, "Isn't he a little old for a bottle?"
I think I might have been. I
Somebody
think
did because
so.
he hadn't learned to drink with a cup yet. So he had
Yeah,
his juice bottle, and he was probably 5.
yeah.
So she
I
said something like that, and I think you said something like, "He's autistic, what's your excuse?" Or something like that back to
I
her.
may have. I
I don't
may have.
remember what you said,
I don't
but
do well
something
with
like
that kind
that.
of shit. I
I
try
know
to
you
be
don't.
zen and try to be, diplomatic about stuff like that, but I just can't. I just if you're gonna say something dumb, you're gonna get chastised. I can't.
Well,
Now I gotta tell you though about that bottle thing because I told and not in a bad. I've told the people at work, all Jason's stories because I work, for those who don't know, I work for the county. As a paraeducator, and most of the kids that have physical uh, disabilities. It's an OI class. It's orthopedically impaired, but there's a few kids that have some behavior issues, and some of the more well versed, experienced, I guess I should say, paraeducators. I told them about Jason. I said, "Yeah, he had a bottle for a long time." And we also had this little girl that came into our classroom a couple years ago, and she was 8 and, she had a bottle, and her parents I think it was I won't say what culture it was, but I think it was whatever this culture was that they just it was like they didn't wanna try and rock the boat with her, and she got anything she wanted kinda thing, and the little girl wasn't bad. She was nonverbal and just, would keep to herself, but she'd cry a couple times, but she couldn't walk on her own. She could sit down and crawl around, but anyway, so when I told the new people, they go, "Oh, that wouldn't have happened with us," kind of thing. He would have been off that bottle, whatever. And I said, "Well, you guys got to remember, by the way, this happened. This was in like the '90s, and this girl was not even out of high school yet." She goes, "Oh, oh." I go, "This was in the beginning stages of this." I go, "My sister didn't think about." She didn't know. No one knew. Should we let him have a bottle? He wouldn't drink anything. I tried to make him drink kiwi strawberry juice because we ran out of milk or no, we ran out of apple juice
Mhm.
and we couldn't go to the store for whatever reason. And so I pinned him down and I took a bottle and I squirted strawberry kiwi on his mouth and he's all, "Ah," and then when it would squirt on his mouth, he'd go, "Ah." So, whether he
Funny.
liked it or not, it wasn't the point. It wasn't apple juice and he needed that apple juice. That was his thing. And again, "Oh, you shouldn't let him have apple juice in a bottle, blah, blah, blah." You know what, dude? The same thing with the leashes. What's the lesser of the 2?
Right,
It's not
right.
about you spoiling a kid. It's not about the behavior. But even then, yeah, right now with the kids in my class, I try to block this one girl from having patterns. She keeps establishing patterns. And then when she gets into these patterns, if she can't have her way with this pattern, she's going to flip out. So we keep trying to, like, every time it looks like she's starting to develop a pattern,
Oh,
we just try to deflect it. But we didn't know all that then. You didn't know anything
yeah.
about that.
We learned as we went along, and I think
Yeah.
one of the things we did notice was the patterns, which
Always.
I couldn't find any information on that. So I didn't know if it was just my kid or if this was normal,
Right.
right? But,
Exactly.
um, but he did have obsessions and patterns and
Yeah.
little, he'd retrace steps and he'd do the same
Oh, yeah.
activity and
I used
whatever,
to.
and he,
Poor
he
Jace.
he was so obsessive with, um he had food aversions, but he had
Yeah.
tactile defensive behavior, so certain surfaces he would not go barefoot on the grass. He
That's
hated going
right. I
barefoot in
remember
the grass.
a
He
lot of
had to have
those
shoes
things.
on, and,
Yeah.
he walked on his tippy toes for years,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that
Forgot about that.
all of these things that we had to work and work and work through therapy, and you and
Yeah.
I just kinda discovered as we went things that would
Right.
work with him, and that's a whole other subject because that leads us into what we did at the gym with him and other kids like him, which I'm very proud of, by the way. So we
Oh
need to
yeah,
talk about that
that's why I
in the
said,
next
man,
part too.
we could have a part 2, 3, 4. I think we could go the whole autism month. I think it'd be good because I think that it's a subject that that people are curious about. People who have kids or know somebody. I mean, the
Yeah,
statistics used to be 1 in every 8 kids, or it was something like that. It's so prevalent now because
yes,
also with the spectrum disorder that you
right.
couldn't quite put somebody in a category. And then now it's like, oh, dude, because I know someone in our family who did get misdiagnosed with ADHD. I think they still have ADHD, but I think there's some autism spectrum going on there too. Because once somebody pointed it out, I was like, oh, dude, I totally see
Yeah,
that now, you know?
yeah.
Um, but no, what I was going to say too about the whole, pattern thing is that I used to book with Jason. He had a pattern where he'd go and scratch the shower door because it was that frosted bumpy glass, and then he'd go through the hallway, and then he'd go, whatever he did, and then one day I said, "Hey, man, I'm gonna see what happens if I stand there and don't let him through." Because again, I wasn't trying to be mean, we were experimenting, and I said, "What do you think he'll do?" And I stood in front of him when he came out of the bathroom, and he looked at me like, well, not at me. He mostly just looked like something's in my way. And then you could tell he was kind of doing his little dance, like, "Ugh," and then he just went the other way, but it didn't make him have a meltdown. But you
Right.
could tell that he was like not happy that this pattern got disrupted. So, we would do stuff like that
Yeah.
just to see,
Well,
how
I'm
would he
gonna
be with that?
and right about here, I'm gonna share a little video clip.
Okay.
We were at when Mike and I first got together, so this is when Mike and I first got together, and we were at, the desert house, Janet's desert house on the golf
Right.
course with the pool and stuff,
Oh,
and we were staying there for the weekend. Um, and so this video clip is of Jason making laps around the kitchen, through the living room, to the Monster Mash. It's
oh,
hilarious.
I remember that.
So let me play
So
that for you
good.
right.
Takes him a minute, he has to wait. Here we go. That's funny.
So,
Cool.
yeah, it's hilarious.
It was hilarious. But see, he did, we tried to get we tried to get him. I remember we tried to get him to cuss,
Oh,
say fuck, and he wouldn't do it. Like there was a time when he
we
knew, you bitch, Aunt Wendy, you're trying to get me to do something that I know is wrong. So that's what's so funny that we learned even before. We didn't know. No one knew really about autism. I'm sure, some people knew, the experts, but I'm just saying us in little old Ukaipa, and we won't we'll have to get into the whole thing about the school district and how they screwed both our
oh,
boys over. Well, not your
yeah.
didn't go to Ukaipa, but well,
Well, he didn't
your
go to
daughter
Yucaipa
did.
because of the district in Yucaipa.
Well,
We got
that
him
too.
to the
Yeah.
Midlands because Yucaipa
Yeah.
sucked.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, like just we did experiment. We did goofy stuff, not to be mean, just to be like, wonder what would happen if we did this. And again, once we go over all the gym stuff, just the stuff that we already knew,
yeah,
you were already giving him therapy with all of the songs and things we knew because I was naive thinking that all parents read to their kids and did colors and letters and whatever. And I was astounded when I started this working at the county in 2022 when the teachers looked at me like I was crazy. They're like, "Yeah, no." And I actually, Amelia's kindergarten teacher, I had said the same thing to her about, I just assumed everybody read books to their kids and did this and that. And she's like, "Yeah, no, you'd be surprised the kids that come in here don't know their basic colors." And I'm like, "What?" I'm so
yeah,
naive because I take for granted, I guess, that you and I did a lot more with the gymnastics and the songs, the gymboree
yeah,
style stuff we did with our own kids, putting them on a higher playing field
mhm,
right from the get go, which sometimes to their detriment. they got bored real quick with school. Oops.
Yeah, yeah,
A
I
good kind of
think
problem, I guess.
that in those early years, it's the one thing I can say to viewers right now is when you first get this diagnosis and you're especially if it's severe like my son, um, the hardest thing is you're going to compare yours to others,
Oh,
especially if you're
yeah.
in a classroom or you're in a mom group or whatever. You're going to compare your child to others and wonder, why does that child speak? They say they have autism, but they can talk. Why is that? And there are no easy answers to that question, but you just have to remember that every child is gonna go at their own pace, and then that's true with any typical child. So,
Exactly.
just be focused on getting as much information as you can and work at whatever your child's own level is,
Right.
and just be there for them and know that they understand more than you realize.
Yeah.
It's getting in there. They do understand. In the early years, like when my son was little, we didn't know what he understood because the doctors made it sound like he was basically barely above an animal. I mean, I'm sorry that sounds
Yeah.
awful, but that's
No, but that's
basically
the way they made it sound.
what they
And
made
on
it sound
TV,
like.
let's face it, TV
Yeah,
didn't help at the time because
no,
they didn't know what it
right.
was and they treated it like they were,
Well,
you know,
most of the kids would be institutionalized because they were just,
yeah, they didn't know what to do with
so,
them.
it's now we know more, and I can tell you, I've seen unbelievable things happen with kids with autism that
Oh,
I've worked
yeah.
with personally, but also even my own son, the how far he's come compared to where they said he was gonna be is
Right.
amazing. So,
Well, and and the fact that he's still learning, not only him, like people
still
I'm sure
learning.
you and I follow similar people on Instagram, but I love seeing those videos where someone says, like you've said, they're doing something they've never done before and they're, in their 20s or their 30s. Now, that doesn't mean, people like, oh, are they going to be cured someday? It's like, okay, I have ADHD. I'm never going to be cured of that. It's like having a recovering alcoholic. I'm always going to have ADHD. I'm always going to have some mental issues. I'm just learning how to work around them, like, OCD or being a hoarder or whatever. I'm always going to have those issues. So it's like with autism, you're always going to be autistic. But that doesn't mean there's not room for growth and learning
Mhm,
within whatever your capabilities are. There's no ceiling
exactly.
limit really, but there is a basic ceiling limit, just like some kids with Down syndrome. Some
Mhm,
kids with Down syndrome, look at they're doing all these astonishing things. And yeah, there may be some who could live on their own. Uh, but there's some who can't. So even within the Down syndrome world, it depends on so many factors, whether the way
yeah,
they were raised or what they're just like all of us have different intelligence levels within their community. They have different intelligence or able bodied uh,
abilities, yeah.
I'm sorry,
It's
abilities
true,
that they can do mentally or
right.
physically. So yeah,
Yep. Um, well, we're at about a little over an
yes.
hour and 15 minutes,
Yeah,
but,
so this is a good part 1 and we have so much like
much
I think by the way I wore my shirt it says
oh, special
it takes a special
para
paraprofessional to
oh,
oh, I'll tell you what it says to hear what a child can't say.
oh, that's nice.
Yeah, my
Mine
teacher
just
from
says,
last year gave that to me.
"Cool mom."
Cool mom, you are a cool mom. We're both cool moms. I have a little gold autism earring I got from that little walk we went to years ago, but I
Oh,
can't
yeah,
find the other one. I'm so bummed because I only have one. I forgot to wear it, but I'm gonna wear it for the rest of this month.
right.
My little gold puzzle piece. So yeah, get out there and if you're not sure about autism, there's so many people to follow on Instagram or
Yep,
websites, the Autism Society. There's just so many places you can get information, but I think pretty much everybody has the basic information, but if you're curious, the best thing to do is to me is to look at different people and their
right.
experiences like what we're doing here because, you know, not a clinical answer might not be the best answer.
No, and actually what you need to understand too is that, um, you know, what gets the most attention are the ones that are savants, the ones that have special talents, or
Yes.
the ones that went from not being able to speak at all to suddenly being able to use a keyboard or be able to
Yeah,
write their own book or suddenly be able to talk and give speeches and go graduate from college. There's all these different degrees, but unfortunately, the ones that get the most attention are the ones that are the quote miracles, that have
yeah,
done all this. There's so many others like my son that are kind of just under the wire, and their accomplishments to us are huge,
of course.
but they're boring for society. It's not an attractive story because it's so
Right.
boring, but
And that's I just want to put in my 2 cents. Just like we've had people before say, um, anybody can learn to do, I don't know, let's say in our gymnastics world, anyone can learn to do a cartwheel. It's like, no, not everyone can learn to do that. There are kids I've worked with who I worked with and given my professional expertise. And there are some people that for whatever reason those wires get crossed, even a regular ed person or,
Mhm.
"Oh, everyone can sing." No, they really can't. Not everyone can sing. I mean, so not every autistic person, "Oh, well, he could learn to use a board or whatever it is." And it's kind of insulting because it's like, "You don't think we've worked with them on that?
Right, right.
You're a highly intelligent person." So anybody who would dare to say something like that to you, I'd wanna
Right,
reach through and the screen and slap them because it's like, you don't know. You don't know what someone's been through. So when you see comments, why don't they use a computer to talk like that person does, like you said
right.
earlier? Because we're all different human beings.
Yeah,
We're all gonna be affected differently, and that's okay.
it is okay. So thanks for joining us on this one,
Yes,
and
thank you.
we've got a lot more coming up. Like Wendy said, we're probably going to fill the whole month up with
I think
this
so.
subject because there's so many things to tell you about, and I appreciate Wendy giving us this platform to do this because, it kind of moves us away from our regular grandma's not right material, but in this
Yeah,
particular month, grandma is right. We
grandma
are
is right.
absolutely right.
We are right.
And we have a lot to say.
Yep.
And
All right, cool.
so, thank you very much. Please like and subscribe and comment below. And I will
Yes.
try to remember to leave links in the description so that if you want more information about autism in
Right.
general or certain subjects that we're going to cover each week, you can go ahead and
Oh,
find that for yourself. Yes,
well, and we could and I'll plug for you too that you've done a lot of videos about Jason. So
I
make
have
sure
another
you direct
YouTube channel.
yeah, your other
So,
YouTube channel. So
yeah,
make sure you put that link in there so people can
I
see
will.
your they can see Jason and know what we're talking about.
I will do that.
All right.
See more about his life and what he does and
Yes.
Um, yeah. So thanks for joining us, and we
Yes,
hope
thank
you
you.
all have a beautiful day today. This is coming out on Easter Sunday, and um,
Ooh,
so however you do this time of year, you do you,
you do
and
you,
have a
man.
beautiful day. And we'll see you
Yes.
on the next one. Bye
Bye
bye.
everyone. Bye.